Operational model characteristics. ALADIN has been developed by a group of scientists from 16 countries and shares a considerable part with the global models IFS and ARPEJ. Both global models are a result of a coordinated effort of ACMWF and Matteo, France. Another LAM developed on the basis of IFS global model is HERLAM, High Resolution Limited Area Model, Unden et al. 2002. These models share the same source code in many parts of the model. A considerable part of the dynamics and data assimilation is in common too. ALADIN can use the same vertical discretization, grid point dynamics and the various physics options as the global model ARPEJ. This section describes the operational model characteristics, the domains and other options used in the operational suite. The operational ALADIN model forecast is run on a Lambert projection domain with 8 km horizontal resolution, Fig 3. The model fields are subsequently going through a dynamical adaptation procedure, Ivatek Sodden and Tudor, 2004, that produces 2 km resolution forecast of 10 meters wind speed and gusts for a smaller domain shown in. The procedure adapts the wind field of the 8 km resolution forecast and uses hydrostatic setup of the ALADIN model with turbulence parameterization only. As an addition to the operational forecast, a 2 km resolution 24-hour forecast was established recently, that uses non-hydrostatic, NH, dynamics and the full parameterization set, including radiation, microphysics and convection schemes. This forecast is run for the same small domain, Fig 3. The ALADIN model domains and terrain height used operationally in CMHS. In the ALADIN community, the initial conditions for the model forecast can be obtained using different approaches. Using the large-scale model data as initial conditions. Blending the large-scale information from low-resolution global model fields with the high-resolution features from the previous LAM forecast. Using the data assimilation procedure. The first approach is used operationally in CMHS since the beginnings of the operational ALADIN forecast suite in 2000. There the upper air and surface fields are taken from the ARPEJ global model and interpolated to the ALADIN grid. Afterwards, these fields are balanced using digital filter initialization, DFI, procedure, Lynch and Huang, 1994. However, the removal of the high-frequency wave energy from the initial conditions also affects the fast meteorological waves. Termonia, 2008, showed how DFI can significantly reduce the depth of the eye of the storm and proposes a solution in the scale-selective DFI, STV. The second approach has not been used in CMHS, but blending has been used extensively in the ALADIN operational forecast suite in the Czech Meteorological and Hydrological Institute, CHMI, Broskova et al., 2001, as well as several other ALADIN member services, DDU, 2006. The blending procedure makes use of the fact that ALADIN is a spectral model. The initial model fields are constructed from the long waves coming from the low-resolution model, ARPEJ, and short waves from the high-resolution model, ALADIN. Schematic view of the data assimilation cycle. The last approach is to initialize ALADIN model using data assimilation and currently it is used in experimental configuration in CMHS. Data assimilation is a procedure wherein information coming from measurements is combined with some a priori estimate, usually a short-range forecast often called first guess or background field, and their associated observation and background model errors, respecting the model dynamical balances, to get the analysis, a maximal likelihood or as best as possible approximation of the true state of the atmosphere at a given time. There are different methods of solving this analysis problem, Holm 2008, and at CMHS 2 of them are used, the optimal interpolation, OI, Cordier 1999, and the variational method, 3DVAR, Hollingsworth et al., 1998. Optimal interpolation is used for updating land surface fields while 3DVAR is used for analysis of upper air fields. It was shown by Mahfouf, 1991, that 2 meters analysis increments of temperature and humidity computed with OI can be used to update the land surface variables. As only the increments of 2 meters temperature and relative humidity are needed, and only the surface measurements are used, rather simple OI method was implemented for computing the 2 meters analysis increments. For the upper air fields more control variables are defined, more sources of data are used, and more sophisticated variational algorithm, 3DVAR, is implemented. 3DVAR belongs to the group of intermittent variational data assimilation strategies, and whereas the true state of the atmosphere is never known, the principal challenge in determining the analysis is to estimate the background model errors. Namely, knowledge of the background error statistics is used to derive the analysis increments and transfer this information in horizontal and vertical directions in the atmosphere. The background error statistics is in CMHS estimated by using the so-called standard NMC method. In this approach, background error statistics is derived from a set of differences between forecasts that are valid at the same time, but at different forecast horizons, typically 12 and 36 hours. In addition, the multivariate formulation of the background error statistics that uses vorticity, divergence, temperature and surface pressure, and humidity as control variables, Aire 2000, allows the propagation of the analysis increments from one to all the other variables, and thus increases the effect of each single observation. Finally, the potential use of the ensemble and seasonal formulations of the background error statistics is currently being investigated. Practical implementation of data assimilation setup in CMHS is illustrated in that shows the scheme of one assimilation cycle. Because of limited computer resources, the assimilation cycle is run in quasi-operational mode, i.e. observation data is taken at the operational time, but the assimilation procedure is performed with certain time delay. An assimilation cycle is a sequence of a 6-hour forecast and analysis that is run on a daily basis. In the first step, SSD in the 6 hours forecast from previous cycle, background, is replaced with SSD taken from global model or PEJ analysis. This replacement is done because no local SSD analysis is implemented. In the second step, the background land surface variables are updated. As there are almost no or very little surface observations available, 2 meters observations are used to retrieve information about the surface temperature and soil water content. Therefore, after the quality control of the 2 meters observations, an optimal interpolation is used to calculate increments of 2 meters temperature and relative humidity. These increments in a more or less sophisticated way are propagated into the land surface equivalents and used for updating the land surface variables. In the next step, the background upper air fields are analyzed using 3DVAR. The standard NMC background error statistics is calculated by the aforementioned procedure over a 100-day period, from 15 February, May 25, 2008. The background error matrix was not tuned a posteriori such as in some other NWP systems, Bologna and Horvath, 2010. The 3DVAR procedure includes a quality control of available data, screening, and minimization procedure that as output produces an analysis which is used for initiating the 6 hours forecast. The assimilation cycle is repeated every 6 hours, at 00, 06, 12 and 18 UC. It is also run with a time delay big enough to enable usage of long cutoff or PEJ coupling files. The PEJ model is run later and in assimilation all data is used, for boundary conditions of 6 hours ALADIN forecast. Also long cutoff data is used in cycle, data available after the time period needed to collect all observations of interest. Production from the assimilation cycle is done following same steps as in the assimilation cycle, but at its end, a 72 hours forecast is performed. However, to perform a quasi-operational 72 hours forecast, timing constraint does not allow to use long cutoff data and long cutoff or PEJ files, thus short cutoff data and or PEJ files are used. The NWP model characteristics are usually described in the terms of the model numerics, dynamics and physics. Model numerics refers to the model computational domain, coordinate system, model resolution and grid, as well as the mathematical methods used to solve the system of the prognostic differential equations. Model dynamics refers to the resolvable processes that are resolved by the model grid and described by the set of model equations for horizontal and vertical momentum and conservation of mass and thermodynamic properties. These processes encompass advection, pressure gradient force and adiabatic changes of heat/temperature. The model dynamics is computed using semi-implicit time integration scheme, Robert, 1982. An implicit treatment of the gravity wave equation is absolutely stable, Duran, 1999. The semi-implicit scheme treats implicitly only a linearized form of the adjustment terms in the shallow water equations. The method results in solving the Helmholtz equation in spectral space. ALADIN is a shallow water spectral limited area model. It applies Fourier spectral representation of the model variables. That allows the advantage of fast Fourier transforms, FFTs, in both directions. An elliptic truncation that limits the Fourier series, Mackenhauer and Haugen, 1987, ensures an isotropic horizontal resolution.